Good morning, friends. Hope you're doing well. It is a very humid, it's 97% humidity right now, which is very unusual for us, and cloudy day. It rained a little bit, misting, kind of drizzle all night long. So everything is kind of damp and it smells good out here. We're in the front garden today, and our 3 yards of compost and 2 yards of wood chips arrived this morning. So Dylan's going to help me start filling these beds. First though, what I need to do is get the irrigation run up into the beds from underneath. Then we'll put the hardware cloth and the cardboard, and then we'll add the soil. So I have a little bit of work to do out here before Dylan can come start filling beds. But I did want to give you an update. So far, the wire cages are working. So here's the one we did on camera together. There has been no intrusion so far, and the plants are growing. They've got irrigation. Everything seems to be going fine. I mean, I don't feel like this is a for sure win. It's going to have to make it to harvest before I'll feel that way, but so far, so good. And then off camera, on a different day, I did this one and planted it up with seedlings. I think we've got collards in the back, or maybe collards up front and broccoli in the back. I can't remember. Anyway, so both of these have been on for about a week, and so far, so good. So I'm going to continue with this method because it's the only thing I know at this point, and hope that it's actually working. Seems like it is, but we'll see. What I need to do now is rig up irrigation to this bed. I'm going to go from the mainline tubing up underneath the bed so that I don't have to cut holes and feed the irrigation through and all that kind of stuff. So that'll be that. And then I'll do the same thing with this bed. And then Dylan can start working on filling with cardboard and soil. So then we also have these 2 beds to fill. And then I have a third one that I need to move from way back there up to here. I'll have to expand it, make it a little bit bigger, and I'll just move the soil. But then everything will be filled and laid out. Now that is not all going to happen today because that's a whole lot of work, but we'll do the best we can. And the majority of the wood chips, actually, I mean, I do want to put some in the pathways here that used to be in-ground bed. I want to fill all that up so it's nice and clean and tidy. But the majority of the wood chips are for the chicken run. As we are heading into rainy season, this run gets super muddy if I don't have a very thick, and I'm talking like 6 to 8 inches thick layer of wood chips. And I want to be able to keep the birds, keep their feet out of the mud. That lowers disease. It keeps them from getting certain infections in their feet. And when it's really, really cold outside, just above freezing, them walking around in a whole bunch of freezing cold mud is just not pleasant. Plus, then the eggs get filthy too. So the wood chips is great. It acts, Joel Salatin calls it a carbonaceous diaper. Basically, all their droppings fall through, they get mixed in and start to decompose underneath, and underneath all the wood chips is compost. My husband asked me the other day if I had harvested any yet, and I said, no, I could, but I think I would want it to sit for a while before I put it on some beds. So probably what I'll do is in the winter time, if we get a dry stretch of a couple of days or more, I will harvest some and put it on top of beds that I haven't planted, that are just sitting here waiting for spring. And that way it'll have plenty of time to decompose. I just don't want to burn the roots of the plants by putting them in chicken manure compost that hasn't completely broken down. Okay, so I'm gonna get this irrigation back. I did make some decisions though. So I've decided that this bed right here is gonna be the garlic bed this year. I try to rotate my garlic to a new bed every year so that we don't spread diseases, especially when we get garlic rust. And I've had no garlic down at this end of the garden. It's all been in the upper 4 raised beds over the last 4 years. So I'm going to put the garlic in this bed. It's plenty big, and because I'm putting garlic in there and the rats don't usually bother it, that'll be one less bed that I have to make a cage out of. Now, if I notice that they are eating it, then I'll come and cage it. But generally, they haven't bothered the garlic. I mean, I don't think the garlic stems are very tasty or anything like that, and they definitely haven't dug up the bulbs. So I think those will be pretty safe. But what won't be safe is what I'm putting in the biggest bed back there. That bed right there is going to be tulips. Now, tulips are a farm crop, right? They're a flower. And last year, I put the tulips in our new 8x4 raised bed. They did great. But you can't plant, or you shouldn't, plant tulips in the same place for 7 years. So basically, there's a disease called tulip fire, which can spread through. It's kind of like a rust, but it basically decimates everything. And that stays in the soil for 7 years. So you need to rotate your tulip crops if you're planting them like I am as an annual. And I've already used all 4 of the raised beds in the front part of the garden for tulips over the last 4 years. And so I figured, since I'm not going to be planting anything in this big bed until, I don't know, May, probably, I'm going to go ahead and make that the tulip bed. It's already got irrigation run to it. It needs more soil, so it's perfect. I'm going to level that. When the tulip bulbs come in, I will just place them in there and then dump compost straight on top. But it will need a topper of hardware cloth. And all I have to do is what I did out at the farm, basically just roll it out on top, cut it to fit because it's a rounded bed, and then, weigh it down, and I'll remove it once they start coming up in the spring. But otherwise, the rats dig up some of the bulbs, but it's mostly squirrels. The squirrels love them. They're super nutritious, tulip bulbs. And so if I want a tulip harvest, I need to protect the bulbs. So that's what I'm going to do. I figure I might as well use this space, because what I was going to do is dig a new bed in the perennial part of the garden, a new 40-foot long bed, and do the gopher cage and all that kind of stuff. But that was more space than I needed for my tulips. And I felt like then I would have to put a lid on top of that, and that would be more challenging, a lot more challenging. So we're just going to do it this way, and it'll work just fine. I usually grow about 1,200 tulips, and that is more than enough space for them. Sounds crazy, but it is. We plant the tulips like eggs in a carton, so they're very close together, and we pull them up, bulbs and all, so that'll work just fine. Plus, I can keep an eye on them on the daily to make sure nobody's getting in there to try to eat them. So that is the plan for these beds. I don't anticipate planting all of these beds up with vegetables, but I might for a fall harvest. And what I am going to do is put lots of mustard around, and in the open bed space that's still in ground, that's where the onions are going to go, because those are less bothered. The mustard for sure isn't bothered, and I think maybe I'll interplant mustard and onions together, and we'll see how that works to keep the rats away. All right, let me get started on this. It's gorgeous. Super humid though, so even though it's nice and cool, I'm still sweating. All right, I'm going to get started on the irrigation, and then Dylan and I will get started moving soil. We are going to be doing it with buckets instead of the wheelbarrow. The wheelbarrow is at the farm, and it does not fit in the back of the Tesla because it's too big. And the Rivian right now has our pop-up tent on the back because Mike needs it this weekend, and the wheelbarrow won't fit underneath that. So that's okay, because other than the wood chips, most of what we need with the soil wise, it kind of needs to be done in buckets anyway, because when you tilt a wheelbarrow up over the top of one of these Birdie's beds, it collapses the bed. So it's usually we end up wheelbarrowing it down and then just shoveling it in. I just find it easier to carry 2 buckets of compost, dump, go back. And so, it's just right here on the driveway. It's still a lot of work, but it'll be just fine. So, all right, I'm gonna get to work. Okay, we've made a good amount of progress. We had to stop because we ran out of hardware cloth. So I'll need to go get the other roll at the farm, but that's not happening today. So what we did was, and it was Dylan was smart. He thought about this. He said, why don't we put the hardware cloth in the beds before we fill them, since we have that option. We did not have that option with this because the bed was already full, or the other bed over there was already full of soil. But we do have this option, so that's what we did. We struggled with it, but we got the hardware cloth in up against the walls and then put the cardboard down after that, and the cardboard presses against it as well, so it kind of holds everything in place. Then we added the soil. And then in this bed, I transplanted Long Island improved Brussels sprouts over here, and DiCiccio broccoli, I believe, right here. And this bed up front here, we're going to do in a minute. That's going to be, I'm going to direct sow carrots and radishes and turnips. And I'm not going to put the cover on that yet. First of all, because it's just seeds and they're going to take a while to germinate. And especially with the carrots, I need to keep that wet consistently or they won't germinate at all. So I'm going to leave the lid off of that. There's nothing in there for the rats to eat at this point. But then when they start coming up, then I'll cover it. We also pulled the irrigation off of this bed and added a whole bunch, topped it up with a bunch of compost, raked it back out. That is going to be the garlic bed, and so it doesn't need a cage or anything at this point. And then added a layer of compost here, just kind of spread it over. The irrigation is still under there. But that's for, if I put onions there, whatever. It's a nice clean bed all set up. Same thing with this. We pulled all the weeds and then actually laid some of them down. The ones that were not flowering, left them laying down in there, covered them up with compost. The irrigation's still in there. And this can be planting space for some more onions, but a lot of mustard. Mustard's going to go in here with the onions. And then we have our artichokes back here. They're buried right now because they're not coming up yet. But yeah, artichokes back there, peonies along the back fence, and there's lots of daffodil bulbs along that back fence as well. And we did this bed. We only had just enough hardware cloth for this. It was not enough to do the rest of the beds in this row. So I was like, well, let's go ahead and use it for this. I don't have a lid for it yet, but there's nothing planted in here. I'm probably not going to plant anything in there this winter. I mean, this fall. It'll just be ready for spring. And this cloth goes down pretty far into the bed. So like there's a little bit of a gap here, but even if they go in here, they're going to have a hell of a time digging under 4 inches of hardware cloth to get back up. This is what's left to do. We have to get more hardware cloth. Like I said, it's out of the farm. We'll put it in these beds. These are going to be a little more challenging to put it in because they have the bracing systems in. So that's going to be kind of a pain in the butt, but we will make it work. And then we'll put the cardboard in and then the soil. And I don't have any plans to plant these up this fall/winter. They will just be sitting here ready for spring. And then I have to take that small bed over there, disassemble it, add 2 extra panels so that it's this length, switch it around over here, and it'll be the final bed on this side. And of course, we still have some cardboard laying around. I do have plenty of other hardware cloth, but it is 1/2 inch, and mice can fit through 1/2 inch hardware cloth without a problem. And so 1/4 inch is really the only way to go. Now the rats can't do it, but the mice can. So still to go, we're going to add a layer of compost to the peony bed over here, and I'll put a layer of compost around all of the fruit trees, and spread a bunch inside the pollinator patch, and just kind of give everything a top up before the rains. Because then over the course of the rainy season, all the goodness in that compost will soak down into the soil. In the very early spring, we'll fertilize fruit trees, give them another little layer of compost around them. That'll probably just be from bagged compost. And then they'll be ready to go for the fruiting season. So what I've got left to do today, I am super dirty because I really am looking forward to taking a shower. I'm going to direct sow some seeds. Here I've got these Market Express turnips, which I think are so pretty. I tried growing them once before, and of course they got eaten. So we're going to try again. I only have a few seeds of these, but we'll see what happens. And then we're going to sow some beets. We have both Early Wonder, because these are very quick, and Golden Boy. Love the golden beets. And then going to direct sow some carrots. So I've got, I think I've got Danvers and Kaleidoscope carrot. Basically, these are just multicolored carrots. So I'll have 2 rows of carrots, and then a full row of beets with half and half. Half Golden Boy, half Early Wonder. And then I only have a few turnip seeds. We'll put those in. Now this compost is very dry and is currently hydrophobic. I know this because I've been watering this area and it's really having a hard time soaking through. So I'm going to use my watering can and wet this down multiple times before I sow these. Try to get that water to start to soak through. And then we're going to wet down then we'll pull some troughs, we'll wet the troughs down. It's just going to be a multiple process of getting lots and lots of water on there, because especially with carrots, if these seeds dry out even a little bit before they germinate, they just won't. So you gotta keep on it. Okay, I'm going to get started. This will be our last job for the day. Also because the bees and the wasps are very interested in me. Okay, friends, that's going to be it for this video. It's actually starting to rain again. It did rain on us a little bit while we were working, and that was wonderful. When you live in a place that only gets rain from like November to March, sometimes if you're lucky, April, the dry season, all dry season is think about how exciting I can't wait till the rain comes again. And it hasn't really come. We just got a little bit of sprinkles here and there. But the big rains hopefully will come. It looks like it's going to be a La Nina year, which means drier and warmer. I'm hoping not. We need the rain. Okay, that's neither here nor there. I just wanted to thank you for joining me today. Thanks for hanging out. I feel like I made a lot of progress. There's still plenty more to do. But it does feel like it's wrapping up, and I am very happy that so far, I'm afraid to say this out loud, so far the cages are working. So let's hope that this will help. It's going to be harder during the summer growing season to do this unless I have a lid that I can lift on and off easily, because I have a lot more maintenance on plants to do. Like in the fall, they just grow and eventually we harvest, so I don't have to do that much to them. But in the spring and summer, as you know, in gardening, there's a lot of work to be done. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. But if I can get a fall harvest, I'll be thrilled. So fingers crossed. Thanks again for hanging out. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.